Good morning. So, what were we talking about yesterday? Counterculture movement in Hollywood. We have already done Stardom and done the case study of James Dean. We have also seen what was classic Hollywood, the golden age of Hollywood, right. Now, we are at a point when we are slowly moving towards the new Hollywood movement. Now, new wave Hollywood or new wave Hollywood or a more auteur based Hollywood cinema. Now, before we go to that particular point, and since we have already done counterculture, I thought let us take a break from Hollywood and look at some international cinema. So, we have already done in this, as part of this endeavor to consider cinemas from various parts of the world. We have already seen French cinema, we did French new wave, and we have already done cinemas of Max Ophüls. We also know something about Cahiers du Cinema Critics and Bresson particularly. So, we have done French cinema, German expressionism, we know something about Italian neorealism also. Japanese cinema, which has had such a strong influence on several cinemas of the world, especially Hollywood, and we will see how. So, today I thought that we will be looking, we should be looking at Japanese cinema, a brief overview, its history, and then the key people and the key movements. We did have something called Japanese new wave as well, that was in the 60s and the 70s. So, we should not consider, just because we do not know much about our own continent, the Asian continent, that new wave did not happen here. We did have a particular movement called the Japanese new wave. However, while considering the Japanese cinema in its overview, we are going to look at some of the films from the earlier period, is also the silent era, the so called golden age of Japanese cinema. After the new wave, we will also look at J horror, which is such a popular category, and the Yakuza movies. Anyone who is familiar with Yakuza movies? What is Wuxia? WUXIA. Are you aware of Wuxia movies? Wuxia is Chinese, okay, is all those action martial arts movies. Yakuza movies are gangster, Japanese gangster cinema, okay. And we also have Korean cinema, which is so influential, so strong. We did excerpts from Korean cinema, we were talking about Montage, and we did Old Boy, remember. So, the key people now, one is going to be Kenji Mizoguchi, who was also known as the Shakespeare of Japanese cinema. Ozu, Akira Kurosawa and Ozu, they belong to the golden age of Japanese cinema. Nagisha Oshima, are you aware of his films? Are you aware of a movie called In the Realm of Senses? Note down the name, note down the title. These are very important films and you should be aware of this category also. Nagisha Oshima, and then we had someone called very influential filmmaker. If you look him up, you will find any number of works on him. Takeshi Kitano, he is also known as Beat. Yeah, so you can imagine how cool he must be. And then we have Takeshi Miike, who has made the popular series of Ichi the Killer. I do not know how many of you follow these films, but very influential and very popular. Meiji period. So, I am taking you back to the earlier cinema, and what is the Meiji period? Emperor Meiji, okay, in Japan. His dates are 1868 to 1912, 1868 to 1912, and this was a period when Japan came under the influence of Western arts and theatres and also visual arts. So, if you look at this particular painting, just take a minute, look at this painting. It is Japanese, but do not you find echoes from the European art as well? No? In what way? Hmm?
Their attire.
Okay, their attire, of course. The complete setup, it looks like a very one of those Monet or Renoir paintings, okay, set in the countryside and depicting the world of the elites in Japan. Okay, and look the way they are dressed up. Okay, it's very very modern, very Western. Now, taking you back to the silent cinema, early Japanese film audiences, they were, because they were the generation which was the direct descendant of the Meiji period. So, they were familiar with Western art and theatre. So, do not think that Japan is a very insular island and they are not aware of, unfortunately we are not aware much of these countries, Japan and China. Of course, we know Ang Lee. Ang Lee has made it so big. John Woo, we will be talking about John Woo. He made Mission Impossible, do not forget that. Okay, so, we know John Woo, we know Ang Lee, we also know Zhang Yimou, the director of Hero. Okay, but Japan needs to be understood in a much better way. So, early Japanese silents were intentionally vague, as all things Japanese, they were vague, they were never over the top. However, there was one particular characteristics of Japanese cinema, of silent movies, the narrator called Benshi. He was not just a narrator, he would not just tell the story, but he would also add his own touches to the story. Okay, so, you know, we talk about folk theatre in our country, we talk about telling a story, the oral tradition. Okay, so, Benshi belonged to that tradition where he would add his own personal touch, he would often make up the story. So, it was not necessarily what was going on the screen, but he would also bring in his own elements to the story. So, that is the major feature of the silent cinema, and the Japanese were always extremely interested in cinema. Okay, they would throng to the theatres, and it is important to notice that they were not just interested in watching the screen, but they also wanted people to tell you what is happening. So, therefore, Benshi is important. This never happened anywhere else, not in Hollywood. Chaplin's cinema, silent movie, they would, your arrival of the train at the station. Remember all those movies, silent cinemas? No one would tell them what is happening. Okay. But here they were expected to be told what is happening. So, they were always extremely interested in cinema. Now, when cinema went talkies in Japan, we had Kenji Misoguchi, often referred to as the Shakespeare of Japanese films. The story of the late Chrysanthemus is often regarded as his best work. Although he has like all greats, early greats, he went unnoticed for a very long period till Kurosawa brought attention to Japanese cinema, and that happened only in the 50s. But Misoguchi made his films during the 30s and the 40s. And his another great movie is Tales of Yugutsu. He got some attention from the international critics because it was already the 50s. And in this film he combines real with the supernatural to explore issues of love, honor, guilt, responsibility, family. And this movie, because of its innovative aspects, is often compared with Citizen Kane. So, it is Ugetsu is also known as Citizen Kane of Japan. Ozu is of course at the center, as important as Kurosawa. So, Ozu, if you remember, we were talking about Paul Schrader, who has written book on Dreyer, Ozu and Bresson. So, this is that Ozu, and his films Basically, he is known for his gentle home dramas, so family dramas, but very gentle, never melodramatic, never over the top. That is his beauty. Very gentle, very sensitive movies, not that mushy sentimentality for Ozu. So, Ozu's films are known for attention paid to the everyday cares of domestic life. And I will show you certain stills from Ozu's films and you will understand what I mean. So, some of the recurring motifs in his works are trains, empty streets, washing on a clothesline and telegraph wires. And what do these images convey? Everyday life. Nothing is spectacular. It is not like he is showing you enormous castles or mansions and he is not going over the top. He is no Cecil DeMille. Yeah, he is just. So, he is known for his home dramas. A standard theme in his films is the breakdown of the family structure in Japan as a consequence of modernization and urbanization, and also the change in gender roles. What happens when women start going out to work, okay, and then what are the repercussions of this change. He is often well known for his pillow shots. I will tell you what are pillow shots, and his evocative images remain separate from his scenes. So, images are extremely important. He is a poet, he is basically a poet, and the imagery, his poetic imagery on his screen is more important than individual scenes. He is often known for poetic restraint, as I was just talking about, never goes over the top, never over the top melodramatic. Now, we will come to a term called low angle shot and high angle shot. A high angle shot is something shot from the top, a low angle shot is shot from below. In our cinema, in our popular cinema, what does low angle shot denote? When you place the camera below, the person, the actor seems taller, larger than life. We often use this to mark our heroes, especially heroes' entry. So, we see the shoes, okay, in the low angle shots, okay, some of you are smiling, so you know what I mean. Okay, and why do we do that? They are larger than life characters. So, make them appear extremely significant and important. This is not the case in Ozu. He uses low angle shot to denote something else, but what does he do? How does he do this? He would often place his static camera, his camera, we were talking about handheld camera and moving camera and all that, a panning camera. He does not resort to those techniques at all. What he does is use a static camera and places it a few inches above the floor, giving the audience an impression that they are sitting on a tatami mat. You know, Japanese mats they are called tatamis. So, as if we are sitting on mats, is the same eye line matching. We see as if we are also on the floor. In movies, if you watch them very carefully, you will find often filmmakers do not show, do not expose the ceilings and the floor. They are taken for granted that they are there. What happens when filmmakers start showing ceilings or floor? Citizen Kane was one of the first movies to expose ceilings. Sidney Lumet does it in Dog Day Afternoon. The entire movie is shot with ceilings exposed. You know Dog Day Afternoon, the highest movie with Al Pacino in Brooklyn. It gives an impression of claustrophobia, closedness. When ceilings, when the room, the spaces are closing in on you. So, that is the impression it gives. Now, Tokyo Story is Ozu's most popular and most well known movie. You must watch Tokyo Story, I recommend that you watch it. It is one of the most simply constructed but also one of the forcefully told story of breakdown of family relationships. The story is that there is an old couple and they make a journey to Tokyo to visit their children and grandchildren. But then what happens, as it often happens in most nuclear families, the daughter-in-law and the son, they do not have enough time. Children go to school, daughter-in-law goes out for work, and so does the son. And what does the old couple do? They just stay back. They have come here to interact with their children and their grandchildren, but it does not happen, and they go back home. Okay. So, now shortly after the old couple returns home to their small town life, the mother dies, and then the children take a journey because they have to participate in the last rituals of the dead mother. So, this is a still from Tokyo Story, the old couple, and then when the daughter in law joins the father in law. In Ozu, we were talking about wires, factory chimneys, so urbanization and modernization. He would not tell you, he will just show you. We were talking about showing directors, telling directors. He does not go over the top with his background music, almost like Bresson, as austere, as ascetic as Bresson and Dre. A window shot. Ozu's other well known works include Floating Wheats, The Flavor of Green Tea Overrides, and Late Autumn. And this is very poignant to bear that his own gravestone, it bears just a character, a Japanese character, which means nothingness. Life is nothingness. So, think of the existential philosophy in Ozu, and that is very much implicit in his works. Since most of you are not aware of Japanese cinema, especially of that period, so no point in asking you questions, but do go and follow up with these films, especially Tales of Yugutsu by Misoguchi and Tokyo Story by Ozu. So, that you must be aware of J horror. Before you arrived, we were just talking about J horror. Are you?
Is it about this like horror movies like this Japanese?
Yeah, J horror is Japanese
Ring,
horror.
examples like Ring 2, those
Yeah,
movies.
Ring.
Yeah.
The Ring is a good example. I am sure you have heard of The Ring. Yeah, in Japanese it was called Ringu. Okay, so now the most well known, most popular director from Japan, at least I am sure you are aware of Kurosawa, 1910 to 1988, influenced a generation of filmmakers. Any number, his films have been adapted and reworked in several Hollywood films also. So, one of the most respected filmmakers in Hollywood, and as it happens, he in his home country, he attracted a lot of jealousy because he was one of the most, it always happens, okay, it's human nature, because he was one of the first, not just one of the first, but he was the first to garner that kind of attention and that kind of reception from the Western world, and that people at home were extremely dismissive of him. They never gave him his due back home in Japan, but Kurosawa, as we all know, is a master. So, the first Japanese filmmaker to gain international recognition. He is known for a very long and distinguished career. He made films till 19s. I am sure you are aware of a movie called Dreams. Yes, yeah, and he acted alongside Martin Scorsese as well. Okay. I will talk about that. So, Kurosawa was familiar with Western literature and arts and was deeply interested in painting. So, if you watch his movies like Ran, are you aware of Ran? Yes, okay. You will, it's like, it's painterly. Every shot is like a painting. You have to watch it to believe it. Okay. His first film was Sugata Sanshiro, and who did he work with? The famous actor. Good. Toshiro Mifune, we will talk about him. Then The Quiet Duel, Stray Dog, The Drunken Angel, all these movies of the 40s. He also employed and experimented the techniques of the Soviet montage and followed the classical Hollywood narrative. You are no strangers to classical Hollywood narrative now. Okay, so Kurosawa is recognized as a master technician and a stylist and reflects a deep sense of humanity for his characters. Now, he awakened the West, and we are talking about his most popular film now, Rashomon, which won the top prize in the Venice Film Festival of 1951 and also a special Oscar for Best Foreign Film. So, that is Toshiro Mifune, and together they worked on several films. It was like one of those De Niro and Martin Scorsese relationship, actor director, and Jean-Pierre Le and Truffaut, they always acted together. If you remember, Jean-Pierre Le, the child actor from 400 Blows, and then he went on to act in several other films with Truffaut, remember? Okay, I am sure that you Shoot the Piano Player, etc., when he was a grown up kid. And he had a nervous breakdown when Truffaut died of brain hemorrhage at a very young age. Truffaut was just in his early 50s, 52 or 54. And the actor he had been working on all those movies, he had a nervous breakdown. We are all often told that when Martin Scorsese was going through the drug period of his, remember he fell into this substance abuse period and he was not able to make any more films, and De Niro would often go and throw scripts on him that come back to work. I mean, that's the only way you can get Scorsese out of that period. And Scorsese, believe it or not, before Raging Bull was so ill that the doctors told him that you have now just a few months to live. And De Niro sort of, when he gave him the script of Raging Bull, brought him back from near death. So, that is the kind of relationships and collaborations you used to have, and therefore, these kinds of films. Okay, so Rashomon, I am sure most of you are at least aware of. If you haven't watched it, please do watch it, and it really opens new horizons for you, because see, it was one of the first movies to explore the concept of multiple perspectives. Today, every second movie has multiple perspectives, multiple parallel stories running. You have Babel, you have all these Inarritu movies and all. Yeah.
Actually, there's a 1950 Tamil movie called Andana. It also dealt with the same thing, multiple narrations, and some of them, I think in Tamil they say
Preceded Rashomon?
Yeah, yes, exactly. It starts Shivaji Ganeshan, and the screenplay was written by Annadurai. And it has the same kind of narration. The guy gets killed, and three different people saying three different ways. It's just kind of set in contemporary times.
Yeah, Virumadi does it again. Yeah, so that's another popular movie. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. So those of you who are not familiar with Rashomon's plot, it's an anecdote presented 4 times. There is a nobleman traveling through the thick forest with his beautiful wife. The wife, they are attacked by a bandit played by Toshiro Mifune. The wife is raped and the nobleman indulges in a duel with the bandit, and the man is killed, husband is killed as well. This episode is narrated through the perspectives of the wife, the bandit, a witness, a silent witness, the woodcutter, who has been watching the entire event while he was hiding in the woods, and then the spirit of the dead man, he finds a medium, and through that particular medium he narrates his version of the story. Rashomon is based on 2 stories by Ryonosuke Akutagawa, and Rashomon and In a Grove. So, there are 2 short stories, Rashomon and In a Grove. So, Kurosawa uses the description of the ruined gate and the atmosphere of the alienation and desolation from the Rashomon story, and various testimonies, multiple perspectives from before the police in a rape case from In a Grove. So, he collapses 2 stories and makes them into one masterpiece. Toshiro Mifune from Rashomon, the wife telling her perspective, and now the word has become so popular that it has come to become a part of our lexicon, popular lexicon, the Rashomon effect. That means there is no single truth. Okay, so there is no point in the so called quest for truth, going for a quest for truth. There are no grand narratives, okay, but there are several multiple tales, stories. That is the idea. So, there is no truth, but everything depends on perception, and this idea has been reworked and revised in several movies, particularly Courage Under Fire. It is a Hollywood movie, 96, Hero, Chinese movie by Zhang Yimou, 2002, Vantage Point, yeah, we all know that movie, 2008, and Virumandi, of course. Rashomon was made in Hollywood by Martin Ritz as Outrage in 1964. Kurosawa was also inspired by the westerns. Remember, we were talking about how interested Kurosawa has always been in the in Western arts and culture and theatre, and he was influenced and inspired by John Ford's westerns, and particularly Seven Samurai, that is his movie, Kurosawa's movie, is a departure from the typical Jadaigeki. The Jadaigeki are those samurai movies of Japan. So, he was more influenced by John Ford and wanted to venture away from the typical samurai movies which were traditionally made in Japan. So, the Seven Samurai is packed with magnificent action, great acting, comedy and adventures. Please do watch it. It was reworked and remade in Hollywood as The Magnificent Seven. Good. So, Seven Samurai, again the plot, and if you, I will ask you if you know any popular movie from our own culture that has been influenced by this plot. A poor village is harassed by a group of bandits who regularly attack, rape, kill and vandalize. The villagers ask a Ronin, you know what is a Ronin? A masterless samurai wandering from place to place in search of food and shelter. So, this Ronin character is played by Takashi Shimura. He is an honorable man and the villagers ask him to save them in exchange for a meager portion of rice. The Ronin is moved by their condition and recruits a team of fighters to combat the evil elements. Which movie? Sholay. Okay. So, remember, Sholay is not one movie, but several movies, particularly Once Upon a Time in the West, Sergio Leone's. How? See, here a village is attacked by bandits. So, the villagers employ a wandering Ronin. There you have Jay and Viru characters, and they are hired by the villagers. They are offered a little amount of money, that is okay, and they are drifters, they have nothing else to do, right. So, they take it up as another adventure that they can indulge in, take the money, leave. That is the plot. Then they get sort of attached to the villagers, their way of life, and decide to stay back, fight back for honor, for love. Okay, that is one part of the plot. But then Sholay also has another plot, subplot of Thakur Baldev Singh. And what is he after? There is personal revenge there, personal vendetta. His family has been gunned down very ruthlessly by this bandit. So, now what? This is a total lift from Once Upon a Time in the West. Yes. So, because you see that is our popular culture, we need to have more emotional connect with the story. So, when okay, the villagers are being looted and robbed and raped, fine, that is one thing, but then for the human connection we also need the story of Thakur Baldev Singh, otherwise the plot would not hold. Otherwise it will just become one of those action adventure movies. What makes Sholay is because it is several things, several movies. Remember Umberto Eco saying Casablanca is several, and of course attention to detail. Every character is meticulously given different shades and traits. So, all 7 samurais, each samurai has a different trait and a different skill. Rajkumar Santoshi had made an honorable flop called China Gate. Are you aware of China Gate? Not Chinatown. Chinatown is another movie by Polanski. China Gate. Urmila Matondkar doing Chamma Chamma. You remember the song? That's from China Gate. Rajkumar Santoshi's. It is 98 or 99. It's an adaptation. It's a reworking of Seven Samurai. So, in the end what happens? In Seven Samurai, the bandits are vanquished. Villagers are finally free. However, 3 of the warriors are dead out of 7. And as the villagers celebrate their harvest ritual, the remaining fighters survey the graves of their friends. So, ends very poignantly. Yojimbo, thoroughly entertaining, 1961. Again it is about a wandering samurai played by Toshiro Mifune. He goes from place to place earning his living with his sword skills and comes to this particular village where there are 2 business clans, both fighting each other. And what happens later is that he after all he is a mercenary. So, he plays the 2 gangs against each other. And this story, we have already watched several classic westerns like Shane, George Stevens, and High Noon, Fred Zimmerman's. So, this is a homage to those films. A clipping, a still from Yojimbo. So, how did Kurosawa influence international filmmaking? Seven Samurai was made into Magnificent Seven, and lone samurai character as in Yojimbo, that has become a very popular character. So, you have Clint Eastwood in Dirty Harry and also in A Fistful of Dollars doing the same, reprising the same role. Bruce Willis in Last Man Standing. Are you aware of the movie Last Man Standing? Please do watch it. So, Yojimbo reworked in Bruce Willis's Last Man Standing. Same story, set in a different period, 1930s America, America of the Prohibition era. Kurosawa is also known for his Shakespearean adaptation, and he has reworked Macbeth and King Lear into Throne of Blood and Ran respectively, again with his favorite actor Toshiro Mifune. And as we were already talking about, he was never considered Japanese enough. He was considered too Western for the Japanese audience. So, in spite of all his international recognition, he was never really considered as one of them. No traditions and Kurosawa, you are aware of, I believe, what is No Theatre, known for its minimalism, is closed and artificial, and is especially in Throne of Blood is referred to throughout the film. So, you can look up on the No tradition and understand how it influences Kurosawa's works, especially in Throne of Blood. Kurosawa remained active till the end of his life. In Dreams is a series of vignettes. He made Martin Scorsese act as Van Gogh. Martin Scorsese, another follower of Kurosawa, in the Crows episode, and he continued his collaboration with Toshiro Mifune's son when he cast Shiro Mifune in his last film After the Rain, 1998. That is the year of his death. So, coming to Japanese New Wave, what was Japanese New Wave? You already know French New Wave, you know Italian Neorealism, and we have been talking about Hollywood New Wave. So, there was something called Japanese New Wave, a very self-conscious movement, and this is the closest they come to the so called Japanese modernism. And at the center you have Nagisa Oshima, who made Cruel Story of Youth. Nagisa Oshima is also famous for his In the Realm of Senses, one of the most erotic films of its times. And Yoshida's Eros plus Massacre. So, those are the films of the Japanese New Wave movement, immensely popular and very well received internationally. 70s onwards, Japanese cinema saw a proliferation of anime, highly stylized animated cartoons, and the most popular names Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away, some of the best known works of this category. Have you watched Spirit? Yeah. So, anime grew out of manga comics, which relies on whimsical drawings, you know, those round faces, extra large eyes and an extra small mouth. Okay. So, those manga comics drawings combine great visual beauty with fairy tale like narratives with great philosophy. All these tales of philosophical depth. Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress, they are also very well known animes. Tokyo Godfathers 2003 and Paprika in 2006, all these films by Satoshi Kon. So, anime as a category. J-horror, so Japanese horror, this is Japan's contribution to world cinema. Why do not we have I-horror, Indian horror? I mean, do we have horrors except Ram Gopal Varma's horrors? What he makes?
Movies are recently coming like in Hindi cinema.
What movies?
Horror movies like Raz, this movie.
You know, 1920 and Raz, they are also reworking, they are not terribly original works. Yeah, so I mean Raz, as far as I can remember, is a reworking of What Lies Beneath, Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford, if you remember. It's a 2000 movie. Yeah. Except that supernatural, but yeah, What Lies Beneath also has supernatural element in it. Yeah, but why don't we have Italian horror, I-horror or anything else? Why don't we have US horror? But J-horror is a unique category of its own. It's Japan's greatest contribution to world cinema, especially in contemporary times. Extremely violent and builds up a mood of mounting dread and suspense. Nothing scares you as a standard J-horror. Famous names, most well known directors of this genre: Hideo Nakata, who made The Ring, or in Japanese it is called the Ringu, and Takashi Miike's Audition and One Missed Call, and that also has been remade in Hollywood, One Missed Call. Takashi Miike's blood drenched, extremely gory series of films, Ichi the Killer. It is a Yakuza gangster genre adapted from Yamamoto's cult manga Koreshiya one. How many of you have watched Ichi the Killer? I am surprised. You know, I was just under the assumption that in this class people may not know Kurosawa, and of course they would not know Misuguchi, who is Shakespeare, poor fellow of Japanese cinema, but everyone would be familiar with Ichi the Killer. Do watch excerpts on the YouTube at least. Fukasioka, master of B movies. What are B movies? In one of my earlier classes, film studies, one of our MA boys did an excellent presentation on B movies, and he made a comparative study of Bollywood and Tamil cinema. Bollywood, B movies. So, what are B movies? You have lists: A movies, you have B movies. A movies usually star A grade, A list actors, A list technicians, A list directors. B movies usually are cultish. Okay, they will be there. There were a spate of movies starring Mithun Chakravarti. Okay. and they had their own fan following. All the standard rituals are there, all the tropes are there. Yeah, an item song, a martial arts scene, something that would appeal to a particular section of society. All your leading critics will never give it 5-star ratings, those kinds of movies. They will give it perhaps poor rating or 0 rating, those kinds of movies, enormous fan following. So, Fukusuka, a master of B movies, Japanese yakuza gangster movies. So, now since you have attended this course, remember Wuxia is Chinese martial arts films, all those wire action movies, the Matrix, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Heroes. So, that is Wuxia, and yakuza Japanese gangster. So, he has made movies like Battle Royale Part 1 and Part 2, and Tarantino dedicates Kill Bill Volume 1 to Fukusuka's memory. It is there, it appears, the beginning. Beat Takeshi Kitano. Beat is his nickname because he is the ultimate in cool. He is an actor, screen director, and also screenwriter and director. One of his most famous films, Violent Cop, 1989. So, Beat Takeshi, often feted and celebrated at Cannes film festivals. He has enormous fan following among the Western audience. He is not just another B maker, a maker of violent gangster films, but he is also celebrated for his aesthetics. So, known for violent gangster films, has a cult following, but now also he is very well received. His most famous films, Violent Cop, Sonatine in 1993, Hanabi in 97, and Zatoshi in 2003. And films are extremely moody, very atmospheric, swing between humor to graphic violence and melancholic introspection. So, there is a philosophy, but and there is plenty of violence, but almost always done very aesthetically. Violence is often played out in Kitano as a kind of ritual, and ritualistic themes, the ritualistic violence often brings you to one conclusion, one theme, that there is always a conflict between duty and personal feelings. So, that is the main theme in Kitano's films. Kitano's Brother, 2000, and Takeshi Miike's Ichi the Killer. Look at the still for a moment, look at the scars on his face, almost like your Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight. Yes, a shock of blonde hair. What do we witness for the past 20 years or so? So, we in Japanese cinema, there has been a nostalgia for the golden age as symbolized by Ozu and Kurosawa. So, now we have Muddy River, an 81 movie which was shot in black and white, almost like a homage to Ozu's films. Masayuki's Shall We Dance has been remade in Hollywood, 1996 movie, and it reinvented Ozu's home dramas. And these films mediate between Japanese and Western forms and traditions. So, now we have that period in Japanese cinema, they are looking back to their classics, their traditional arts, and also trying to build a bridge between the East and the West. Still quite nostalgic about the past traditions. So, that is Japanese cinema for you. I recommend that you watch Kitano's films for their very individualistic take on violence. Ichi the Killer, if you have the stomach for that kind of cinema. You watch Tarantino, so perhaps you would appreciate that. It should not shock you all that much. And go to classics, Do watch. I'm just assuming that you are aware of Rashomon, but watch Throne of Blood as well. We are talking about no traditions and Kurosawa. So Throne of Blood and Ozu's Tokyo Story. So, thank you very much and we meet tomorrow.